Swish! A towering and fierce sword aura spread across the sky, as if the sword energy had transformed into streams of rivers. In the midst of these sword currents, Luo Li held her long sword, trembling with power. Sword energy surged from the tip, spiraling toward the 5 figures surrounding her, each exuding immense spiritual energy. The team from the Great Cauldron Spiritual Academy reacted swiftly, their faces tightening, as they poured their spiritual energy to its limits and invoked powerful divine techniques. Light rainbows shot across the air, clashing violently with the sword currents. Hiss! The collision sent white light flashing, and in an instant, the sword currents cleaved through the spiritual energy light rainbows. The 5 members of the Great Cauldron Spiritual Academy team were visibly shocked, clearly not expecting their offensive to be so fragile against the sword energy. Such sword energy, they couldn't withstand it. The 5 of them retreated rapidly, but just as they moved, a violent disturbance came from behind them. Turning around, their faces turned grim as they saw that the sword energy had already surged toward them from behind, a violent storm closing in on them. The spiritual energy surrounding them shattered on contact with the sharp sword currents. Only the team leader remained unscathed, while the other 4 were instantly covered in blood, their bodies battered as if they had been painted in red. A heavy sword energy struck them with a resounding crash. Puffed. Blood spurted from their mouths as the 4 figures were sent flying, crashing to the ground in a miserable state. They were instantly heavily injured. The sword energy in the sky momentarily paused. In front of Luo Li, only the team leader from the Great Cauldron Spiritual Academy remained, his clothes torn and his face pale with terror. He couldn't fathom why Luo Li, despite being in the same difficult physical state, was so much stronger. No wonder she dared to take on their entire team alone. The leader of the Great Cauldron Spiritual Academy bitterly thought to himself, realizing that they had encountered an insurmountable wall. Luo Li raised her clear eyes and glanced at him indifferently before stepping forward with graceful movements. The sight of her made the team leader instinctively retreat, his fighting spirit vanishing entirely. Around them, many teams watching this scene couldn't help but marvel. They looked at Luo Li in awe. So beautiful, yet her strength was just as stunning. Against opponents of equal power, she had rendered them helpless with ease. This year's Spirit Academy Grand Competition, so many strong girls. First place is still held by Wen Qingxian of the 10,000 Phoenixes Spiritual Academy, and now another fierce girl has emerged. I wonder who is stronger between her and Wen Qingxian. The teams exchanged glances, whispering quietly. Su Huang, Zhao Qingshan, and Mu Fengyang had also intervened, blocking the 3 members of the Azure Sky Spirit Academy. Despite all being in the late heaven-reaching stage, Su Huang and his companions held the advantage. Their foundations were clearly stronger than the 3 from Azure Sky Spirit Academy. They had been prominent figures in the Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy until Mu Chen's rise overshadowed them. However, no one could deny that they possessed impressive talent. They had been feeling somewhat stifled, especially after witnessing the astonishing strength of Mu Chun and Luo Li. Despite being senior students, they were far outpaced by Mu Chun and Luo Li, a frustration they couldn't unleash on them, so they vented it on their current opponents. The attacks came one after another, relentlessly suppressing their opponents, forcing them into a defensive position where they could barely breathe. Elsewhere, Qiu Beihai's face darkened as he saw the situation turning against him. His gaze locked onto Mu Chun, whose black eyes revealed indifference. Gritting his teeth, Qiu Beihai said, "Mu Chun, you." Boom. Before he could finish, Mu Chun gave no chance for further words. Qiu Beihai quickly retreated, his crimson longsword emitting fierce sword light to counter the spear's thrust. However, the clash of metals sent him stumbling backward by several dozen steps. Rage and frustration surged in his eyes. Throughout his time in the Spirit Road, he had been suppressed by Mu Chun. If it weren't for his alliance with Ji Xian, he might have already been killed by Mu Chun within the Spirit Road. Later, when Mu Chun was tricked and expelled from the Spirit Road, Qiu Beihai felt immense satisfaction. He thought that even if they crossed paths again, Mu Chun would no longer pose a threat. After all, with the enlightenment of the Spirit Road, he would far surpass Mu Chun. And when they met again, Mu Chen's strength, only at the late heaven-reaching stage, only made Qiu Beihai overjoyed. His opportunity had arrived. If he could defeat Mu Chen here, the shadow of his past would be erased. Therefore, he swore to crush Mu Chen beneath his feet. However, the situation quickly took an unexpected turn. Mu Chen, possessing only the strength of the late heaven-reaching stage, displayed shocking combat power. Two individuals with the strength of the physical body tribulation joined forces to surround him, but he crushed one with thunderous force, causing them to retreat in disarray. Why was Mu Chen always so strong? Was Qiu Beihai doomed to be nothing more than a stepping stone for him? Qiu Beihai's eyes burned with fury. He glared fiercely at Mu Chen and growled, "Mu Chen, today you will be my defeated opponent." As his words fell, blood suddenly appeared on Qiu Beihai's fingertips. The blood gleamed brightly, and the air was thick with a heavy, blood-curdling scent, filled with immense spiritual power. Hiss! Hiss! Qiu Beihai's fingers moved in a strange dance, bloodlines materializing from his fingertips, rapidly coalescing in the air in front of him. In the blink of an eye, they formed a blood-red sword shadow about 10 feet long, flickering with a bloodthirsty aura, eerily powerful. Mu Chen's eyes narrowed at this sight, but he didn't take immediate action to stop it. His expression remained indifferent as he allowed Qiu Beihai to unleash his most powerful technique. Mu Chen wasn't just focused on defeating him. He intended to utterly crush Qiu Beihai's confidence. He aimed to plant the seeds of helplessness deep within Qiu Beihai's heart. A simple defeat would not satisfy Mu Chen. Boom! The bloodthirsty waves of energy erupted from the blood-red sword shadow, causing the sky itself to turn blood-red. Blood Sea Sword Demon Art, Blood Demon Sword. Qiu Beihai's face turned even paler, but his eyes grew darker with violence. Before him, the blood-red sword shadow expanded to a massive 100-foot length, with blood flowing like a stream across its surface, the scent of blood overwhelming. As the smell reached its peak, Qiu Beihai bellowed, drawing all his spiritual energy into the sword, his power surging through the blood-red sword shadow. Buzz! The bloodthirsty sword aura shot up into the sky, ripping through the cloud layers miles above. Whoosh! The blood-red sword shadow shot toward the heavens with terrifying speed. All anyone saw was a flash of crimson light. Then, they watched as it dove toward the ground, sending a tidal wave of blood surging in its wake. The immense blood sea, sweeping like a torrent, raced toward Mu Chen. Its speed was unimaginable. The blood sea surged forward, leaving no space for evasion. Haha! Qiu Beihai's eyes glinted with savagery as he looked at Mu Chen, who was locked in place. A sinister grin spread across his face. This attack would certainly deal heavy damage, if not outright kill, anyone at the physical body tribulation level. He was certain that Mu Chen couldn't escape this calamity. Die! As Qiu Beihai roared, Mu Chen looked up, his eyes reflecting the surging blood sea. Slowly, he clenched his hands, and 4 thunderous runes condensed on his chest, black arcs of lightning crackling fiercely over his body. Boom! A deep thunderous sound seemed to emanate from Mu Chen's body, echoing through the sky. His right hand slowly extended, and within his palm, endless black thunder began to form and dissipate, like a world of lightning taking shape. His palm turned pitch black, profound and mysterious. With a slight motion, he flipped his palm upward and gently slapped the blood-red sword shadow. Thunder God's hand. A low voice resonated in Mu Chen's heart, and in that instant, his black eyes erupted with electric fury. The black thunderbolt erupted violently from Mu Chen's body, and the sky roared with thunder. In front of Mu Chen, a massive hand formed, about 100 feet in size, pitch black in color. On this giant hand, black lightning arcs flashed wildly, and as they condensed, they seemed to transform into ancient patterns. It was incredibly violent, like the hand of a thunder god. This thunder god's hand was a domineering technique that could only be used when the thunder god body reached the 4-rune thunder body. In the past, Mu Chen had been unable to wield it, but now, he was fully capable. Boom! Mu Chen slammed his palm forward, and the dark thunder god's hand, carrying the sound of thunder, howled through the sky. In the blink of an eye, it collided violently with the blood demon sword shadow, creating a deafening sound that shook the heavens. Boom! A thunderous roar echoed across the sky, and the terrifying shockwaves formed a hurricane that spread rapidly, engulfing the skies. Qiu Beihai, whose pale face had already lost all color, saw something that made his heart drop. In the terrifying clash, fine cracks began to appear on the blood-red sword shadow. Crack! The blood-red cracks spread rapidly across the entire vast sword shadow in just a few breaths, covering it entirely. Meanwhile, the blood sea behind the sword shadow also began to boil and evaporate as the endless black lightning arcs flashed. The overwhelming stench of blood quickly faded away. Is this your final move? Chen looked indifferently at the pale Qiu Beihai, shaking his head with a trace of disappointment. Compared to Jixin, you're still far too weak. With a sudden grip of his hand, the massive thunder god's hand clenched down, and the black lightning arcs flashed violently within its palm. It then crushed the blood demon's sword shadow, and with a loud explosion, the blood-red sword shadow was obliterated in Chen's palm. Poof! As the blood demon's sword shadow shattered, Qiu Beihai's face twisted in pain, and a mouthful of blood spurted from his mouth. His spiritual energy rapidly waned, clearly suffering a devastating blow. Around them, many teams were shaken, their faces filled with disbelief. No one had expected that even after the joint efforts of two peak experts at the physical body tribulation level, they would still be so utterly defeated by Chen. How is Chen this strong? His power is clearly only at the late heaven-reaching stage, but his combat ability, it's as though he can rival someone who has surpassed the spiritual energy tribulation. Truly terrifying. Looks like the Azure Sky Spirit Academy's team is finished. It seems the Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy will truly rise after this Spiritual Academy grand competition. Whispers of shock spread quietly through the crowd, with barely concealed amazement. They had originally thought this would be a fierce battle between the two top academies, but no one had expected the situation to turn so one-sided. Chen clearly hadn't even used his full strength, yet it was more than enough to defeat Qiu Beihai and Xun'er. Chen watched as Qiu Beihai, vomiting blood, realized he was being stared at by Chen's cold, indifferent gaze. Fear surged uncontrollably in his heart. He suddenly turned and fled in panic. He now understood there was no chance left for him to win. Captain, the three members of Azure Sky Spirit Academy, who had been suppressed by Su Huang and his teammates, saw this scene. Their faces changed dramatically. With their minds thrown into chaos, they were caught off guard by Su Huang's team. The overwhelming palm wind pierced through their defenses and struck their chests, sending them flying back, while coughing up blood. Chen fixed his eyes on Qiu Beihai's fleeing figure. He flicked his finger, and a beam of light shot across the sky like lightning. In the distance, Qiu Beihai let out a miserable shriek. Blood flowed from his hands, and all 10 of his fingers were severed. However, at that moment, he was so terrified that he paid no attention to his severed fingers, running away like a dog in despair. Chen didn't chase after him because he knew Qiu Beihai was done for. Not only had he lost all will to fight and was filled with fear, but he had also abandoned his team. Even if he returned, the Azure Sky Spirit Academy would no longer consider him their captain. Once the news reached them, he would be despised by all the students of Azure Sky Spirit Academy. However, Chen felt no pity. In the Spirit Road, Jixin had clearly been involved in the scheme against him, and it was evident that Qiu Beihai had also participated. Moreover, after being expelled from the Spirit Road, Qiu Beihai even dared to encircle Luo Li, something Chen simply could not tolerate. Therefore, the outcome he faced today was entirely self-inflicted. Clang! As Qiu Beihai fled, the sound of sword energy echoed nearby. A sword shadow cut through the spiritual energy light beam, eventually halting in front of the captain of the Great Cauldron Spiritual Academy team. The sharp sword energy made the captain tremble. He quickly raised his palm and forced out a dry, bitter smile. I admit defeat. Please show mercy. Luo Li glanced at him, but said nothing. She merely extended her slender, delicate jade hand. The captain of the Great Cauldron Spiritual Academy sighed with a bitter smile. He cursed Qiu Beihai's entire family in his mind. This bastard. If he had known he was offending such a formidable enemy, he never would have partnered with him. Now, It was a complete disaster. He failed to gather any intelligence and ended up losing the hard-earned points. He clenched his fist, and the academy token appeared. He obediently handed it over to Luo Li. Qiu Beihai, whose pale face had already lost all color, saw something that made his heart drop. In the terrifying clash, fine cracks began to appear on the blood-red sword shadow. Crack! The blood-red cracks spread rapidly across the entire vast sword shadow in just a few breaths, covering it entirely. Meanwhile, the blood sea behind the sword shadow also began to boil and evaporate as the endless black lightning arcs flashed. The overwhelming stench of blood quickly faded away. Is this your final move? Chen looked indifferently at the pale Qiu Beihai, shaking his head with a trace of disappointment. Compared to Jixin, you're still far too weak. With a sudden grip of his hand, the massive thunder god's hand clenched down, and the black lightning arcs flashed violently within its palm. It then crushed the blood demon's sword shadow, and with a loud explosion, the blood-red sword shadow was obliterated in Chen's palm. Poof! As the blood demon's sword shadow shattered, Qiu Beihai's face twisted in pain, and a mouthful of blood spurted from his mouth. His spiritual energy rapidly waned, clearly suffering a devastating blow. Around them, many teams were shaken, their faces filled with disbelief. No one had expected that even after the joint efforts of two peak experts at the physical body tribulation level, they would still be so utterly defeated by Chen. How is Chen this strong? His power is clearly only at the late heaven-reaching stage, but his combat ability, it's as though he can rival someone who has surpassed the spiritual energy tribulation. Truly terrifying. Looks like the Azure Sky Spirit Academy's team is finished. It seems the Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy will truly rise after this Spiritual Academy grand competition. Whispers of shock spread quietly through the crowd, with barely concealed amazement. They had originally thought this would be a fierce battle between the two top academies, but no one had expected the situation to turn so one-sided. Chen clearly hadn't even used his full strength, yet it was more than enough to defeat Qiu Beihai and Xun'er. Chen watched as Qiu Beihai, vomiting blood, realized he was being stared at by Chen's cold, indifferent gaze. Fear surged uncontrollably in his heart. He suddenly turned and fled in panic. He now understood there was no chance left for him to win. Captain, the three members of Azure Sky Spirit Academy, who had been suppressed by Su Huang and his teammates, saw this scene. Their faces changed dramatically. With their minds thrown into chaos, they were caught off guard by Su Huang's team. The overwhelming palm wind pierced through their defenses and struck their chests, sending them flying back, while coughing up blood. Chen fixed his eyes on Qiu Beihai's fleeing figure. He flicked his finger, and a beam of light shot across the sky like lightning. In the distance, Qiu Beihai let out a miserable shriek. Blood flowed from his hands, and all 10 of his fingers were severed. However, at that moment, he was so terrified that he paid no attention to his severed fingers, running away like a dog in despair. Chen didn't chase after him because he knew Qiu Beihai was done for. Not only had he lost all will to fight and was filled with fear, but he had also abandoned his team. Even if he returned, the Azure Sky Spirit Academy would no longer consider him their captain. Once the news reached them, he would be despised by all the students of Azure Sky Spirit Academy. However, Chen felt no pity. In the Spirit Road, Jixin had clearly been involved in the scheme against him, and it was evident that Qiu Beihai had also participated. Moreover, after being expelled from the Spirit Road, Qiu Beihai even dared to encircle Luo Li, something Chen simply could not tolerate. Therefore, the outcome he faced today was entirely self-inflicted. Clang! As Qiu Beihai fled, the sound of sword energy echoed nearby. A sword shadow cut through the spiritual energy light beam, eventually halting in front of the captain of the Great Cauldron Spiritual Academy team. The sharp sword energy made the captain tremble. He quickly raised his palm and forced out a dry, bitter smile. I admit defeat. Please show mercy. Luo Li glanced at him, but said nothing. She merely extended her slender, delicate jade hand. The captain of the Great Cauldron Spiritual Academy sighed with a bitter smile. He cursed Qiu Beihai's entire family in his mind. This bastard. If he had known he was offending such a formidable enemy, he never would have partnered with him. Now, It was a complete disaster. He failed to gather any intelligence and ended up losing the hard-earned points. He clenched his fist, and the Academy token appeared. He obediently handed it over to Luo Li. I'm Mu Chun, also the captain of this team. Lin Zhou forced a dry smile after seeing Mu Chen's grin. Thank you, Captain Mu, for helping us out earlier. We, the Desolate Spiritual Academy, won't forget this favor. If you ever need anything, don't hesitate to ask. But we must take our leave now. As he spoke, he motioned for his team to retreat quickly. But before they could move, Luo Li and Su Huang blocked their path, causing their bodies to stiffen immediately. Captain Lin Zhou, we hit it off right away, but we haven't had a good chat yet. How about you come with us for a bit? There are so many teams eyeing you right now. Staying here might not be a good idea, Mu Chun said as he walked up, clapping Lin Zhou's shoulder in a friendly manner. His smile was warm as he joked, we've been chasing you the whole day and even fought with the Azure Sky Spiritual Academy. How can we let you just run off easily? Lin Zhou's expression froze as he looked at Mu Chun. Finally, he sighed. Earlier, he had seen Mu Chen's strength. The Azure Sky Spiritual Academy team was just as strong as theirs, yet they were defeated so miserably. So, even though they were exhausted, they wouldn't dare challenge Mu Chen's team. He exchanged glances with his 4 teammates, all of whom seemed deflated. Just when they thought they had escaped one danger, they had fallen into another. In this area, the teams that had been eyeing the Desolate Spiritual Academy from the start could now only watch helplessly as Mu Chun led them away. They had no intention of contesting. After all, if the Azure Sky Spiritual Academy was defeated so easily, who would dare challenge them? Thus, facing the retreating teams, the others exchanged helpless glances and sighed in resignation. Mu Chun led the Desolate Spiritual Academy team far away from the prying eyes of other teams. Once he was sure no one was following them, he finally relaxed. It seemed that his victory over Qiu Beihai and his team had made quite an impression on the others. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been so easy to lead the Desolate Spiritual Academy team away from the watchful gazes of so many teams. Mu Chun exchanged a glance with Luo Li before they descended towards a remote mountain peak. Seeing this, Lin Zhou had no choice but to sigh and follow his team down. Rest for a while, Mu Chun said with a faint smile as he looked at Lin Zhou and his pale-faced team. Lin Zhou and the others were stunned. They hadn't expected Mu Chun to allow them time to recover. After all, if they regained their strength, they would have some ability to resist. I believe Captain Lin Zhou isn't someone who burns bridges, Mu Chun said with a smile. He gently patted a large rock beside him, then snapped his fingers. With a puff, the rock disintegrated into dust, scattering down. He brushed the dust from his palm, his smile even brighter. Lin Zhou and the others exchanged looks and forced a laugh. They could clearly sense the slight threat in Mu Chen's tone. They grumbled inwardly, but quickly sat down to meditate and recover the spiritual energy they had spent. Seeing Lin Zhou and the others meditating, Luo Li approached Mu Chun, her bright, clear eyes gazing at him. What are you planning to do? If Mu Chun wanted to take their points, he didn't need to go through all this trouble. Su Huang and the others also watched Mu Chun closely. Right now, what matters most to us isn't the points, Mu Chun said with a slight smile. Do you remember what the dean said? We're in a broken relic continent. This land holds many ancient treasures and legacies. Whoever is lucky enough to obtain them will see their strength rise significantly. Don't be fooled by how hotly the top 16 teams are competing. Some of the more powerful teams have yet to show up, as they're not rushing to grab points. Instead, they are scouring the entire continent for relics to strengthen their teams. Teams that are overly focused on hoarding points will eventually pay the price. No matter how many points they gather, without enough strength, they're ultimately just paving the way for others. Power is the biggest factor in determining the final ranking. Su Huang and the others furrowed their brows before nodding seriously. Mu Chun was right. Without enough power, even if they managed to secure first place, what difference would it make? They would just become easy targets, ripe for the picking. The powerful teams who had been biding their time would easily defeat them and take their points. Our team, to be honest, is still a bit behind when compared to the top teams, Mu Chun said, looking at Su Huang and the others. At the very least, we need to let you all get through the physical tribulation. Su Huang, Zhao Qingshan, and Mu Fengyang all let out bitter smiles. The physical tribulation was terrifying, and without external help, they didn't have much confidence in overcoming it. So, you want to search for relics to increase the team's strength? Luo Li glanced at Lin Zhou and the others, who were meditating nearby, then said, "You're hoping to get the information they have about the ancient relics, right?" Mu Chen nodded, then looked at Lin Zhou, smiling. These guys really don't know if they're lucky or unlucky. They've only been here a day, and already they've gotten intel on the ancient relics. But the word got out, and now they've drawn the attention of so many teams. They're still in the top 16, and the location has been marked, so naturally, everyone's eyeing them. Luo Li couldn't help but laugh, her laughter as clear as a silver bell. Su Huang and the others exchanged sympathetic glances with Lin Zhou's team. Those guys really were in a tough spot. But will they give us the information? Su Huang asked. That intel must be really important. The fewer people who know, the better. Mu Chen smiled. We've shown enough sincerity, even saving them. I'm sure Captain Lin Zhou isn't the kind of person who forgets kindness. I've always been friendly with friends, but I can't let those who burn bridges easily get away with it. According to the rules, a team can only lose half their points in a day, but we can guard their scores. Worst case, we can keep them in check for a few days, draining their points and making sure they're eliminated. Su Huang and the others stared at him in shock. They couldn't help but shudder at the coldness in Mu Chen's smile. That was ruthless. Luo Li glanced at Lin Zhou, who was meditating, and noticed the corner of his eye twitch. She shook her head, smiling without saying a word. Mu Chen ignored their stunned expressions and lazily said, "Let's rest for now. Once Captain Lin Zhou and the others are up, we'll have a friendly chat with them." Su Huang and the others exchanged looks and sat down, waiting for Lin Zhou and his team to wake up. Luo Li moved lightly, a fragrant breeze following her, as she sat beside him. She glanced at him with a smile in her eyes and whispered, "You little troublemaker, don't you worry about scaring them to death?" Mu Chen grinned, glancing at Lin Zhou, who was slightly trembling. He sighed and leaned closer, saying, "I can't help it. As the team leader, I have to think about the whole team. After all, we can't rely on just the two of us for what's ahead. I need to find a way to boost Su Huang and the others' strength. And of course, the ancient relics will benefit us greatly. The top teams are all out there searching for relics, and we can't fall behind." He let out a long sigh. Being the team leader is tough. Luo Li shot him a sidelong glance, a playful smile on her lips. Whether it's tough or not has nothing to do with your hands. Mu Chen's hand, which had unknowingly moved around Luo Li's slim waist, froze slightly when he saw her smile. He grinned, not only refusing to withdraw his hand, but even letting it rest comfortably on her waist. Luo Li blushed when she saw how thick-skinned this guy was. She shot him a playful glare, but after a brief hesitation, she gently rested her face on Mu Chen's shoulder. Her nose mischievously brushed against his neck, releasing a breath as fragrant as orchids. The three of them, Su Huang and the others, noticed the closeness between the two and consciously turned their heads, their faces full of envy. "Luo Li, it's been almost 2 years since we came to Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy, right?" Mu Chen asked as he tightly wrapped his arm around the girl's slim waist. Luo Li lightly nodded, her clear eyes dimming slightly as if she had thought of something. Perhaps I don't have much time left," Luo Li said softly. Mu Chen looked up and let out a long sigh, a sense of melancholy rising in his heart. He knew that Luo Li truly didn't have much time left. The fact that she had been away from the Luo God clan for nearly 2 years was likely her grandfather's greatest concession. Once time ran out, she would have to return to the Luo God clan and accept the responsibilities that were rightfully hers, becoming the next ruler of the Luo God clan. At that time, she would need to bear the heavy responsibility of millions of people in the Luo God clan. Mu Chen couldn't help but feel a pang of heartache just thinking about it. He didn't know how she, a young girl, could bear such a burden. But right now, he was still too weak to offer her any help. "Luo Li, no matter what happens in the future, you must remember to wait for me. Wait for me to go to the Luo God clan. When the time comes, whoever dares to bully you, I'll cut him into pieces." Mu Chen lowered his head and looked at her enchanting face, speaking in a soft voice. Luo Li's lips curled into a smile, but her eyes reddened slightly. She gazed at the young man's handsome and determined face. I have some support in the Luo God clan, but you are venturing alone in the great thousand worlds. How much effort will you need to exert to walk the path to becoming a powerhouse? However, she didn't voice her thoughts at this moment. She just looked softly at Mu Chen and gently nodded, like a little wife. Mu Chen smiled and then lowered his head. In Luo Li's slightly widened beautiful eyes, he gently kissed her tender, rosy lips. A blush spread across Luo Li's face, but perhaps because she knew she couldn't stay by Mu Chen's side for long. The usually shy Luo Li, who avoided being too intimate with Mu Chen in front of others, closed her eyes, allowing him to indulge. Cough. However, Mu Chen's enjoyment didn't last long, as a dry cough interrupted. Luo Li immediately came to her senses, her face turning bright red as she pushed Mu Chen away and fled in embarrassment. Mu Chen felt regret, and then he viciously turned his head, glaring at Lin Zhou, who had just woken up and was awkwardly looking at him. His gaze was sharp enough to make it seem like he wanted to tear the man to pieces. Seeing that look in his eyes, Lin Zhou immediately felt a chill down his spine. Recalling the devilish words he had heard earlier, he quickly raised his hand. Captain Mu Chen, we are willing to share information. Oh. When the words share information reached Mu Chen's ears, his fierce gaze instantly disappeared, replaced by a gentle smile on his handsome face. He said, Captain Lin Zhou is magnanimous. Thank you, Mu Chen, for that. Lin Zhou looked at Mu Chen, who was cupping his hands, but couldn't help but twitch his lips. He felt like crying. This guy was even more terrifying than Qiu Beihai and the others. Mu Chen waved at the others, who gathered around. Even Luo Li, her face slightly flushed, came closer. However, in her watery, glistening eyes, there was still some embarrassment. The delicate blush on her face made even Lin Zhou and the others pause for a moment before quickly averting their gaze. Captain Lin Zhou, why don't you share what you know? If it's valuable, I think we might be able to cooperate. That shouldn't be a bad deal for you. Mu Chen said, his expression serious. He knew that relying on threats alone wouldn't work. Only by creating a win-win situation could he make Lin Zhou and the others put aside their ill intentions. Lin Zhou glanced at Mu Chen in surprise. Most people would try to monopolize information, but Mu Chen's open and straightforward approach was quite rare. His words also put Lin Zhou at ease a little. It seemed that the other party was not the type to turn hostile once they had obtained the information. This information was obtained from the teleportation landing zone. Lin Zhou smiled bitterly. We were fighting with another team, and when we shattered a mountain, a jade slip flew out. Mu Chen and the others were stunned. Is this really possible? These guys are just too lucky, aren't they? The jade slip contains some routes, and as for that relic, it should be located to the northwest, Lin Zhou explained. What exactly is inside the ancient relic? Mu Chen asked, pondering. I'm not entirely sure. Lin Zhou shook his head helplessly. The jade slip only recorded this information. We'll likely have to enter the relic to find out the rest. Also, it's probably not just us who know about this relic. Lin Zhou furrowed his brow. From the intel we've gathered, some teams may have already discovered it. Among them are some extremely powerful ones. It seems like the Sacred Spirit Academy has also sent a team. Sacred Spirit Academy? Mu Chen's gaze sharpened, his eyes becoming fierce. Which team from the Sacred Spirit Academy? If it's the team led by Ji Xian, they might arrive before them. Lin Zhou shook his head again. Anyway, all 4 teams from Sacred Spirit Academy are incredibly strong. No matter who we encounter, it will be bad luck. But judging by the situation, the team led by Ji Xian seems to be the strongest. If it's them, we might not have much chance with this ancient relic. Mu Chen smiled faintly. We'll only know once we meet them. Lin Zhou knew that this young man wasn't someone easy to deal with, so he nodded thoughtfully. Then, he cautiously asked, So, Captain Mu Chen, are you planning to team up with us to explore the ancient relic? If so, how will we divide the spoils? We'll watch each other's backs. As for the spoils after entering the relic, it depends on each person's abilities. We'll try to stay on the same side, help each other when needed, and avoid jealousy. Is that fine? Mu Chen smiled. Lin Zhou's team wasn't weak, and joining forces would definitely strengthen them. Lin Zhou and the others exchanged glances. After a moment of thought, they nodded in agreement. This way, there would be no misunderstandings about loot distribution later. Shall we head out now? Lin Zhou asked eagerly. They had originally planned to reach the relic quickly, but had been delayed due to their whereabouts being exposed. Before we go, it's best to drop your rankings. Mu Chen shrugged and smiled. Anyone rushing to climb up now is just asking for trouble. We were able to find you because of the rankings. Lin Zhou's team blushed, embarrassed. It's fine now. We've already fallen off the leaderboard. Mu Chen was surprised. He took out his academy token and checked, only to find that Lin Zhou's team had disappeared from the top 16. The rankings fluctuate a lot now. We haven't gained any points lately, so we've gradually dropped down, Lin Zhou explained. Mu Chen nodded. Over time, the rankings would stabilize. The teams still in the top 16 would truly be the powerful ones. All right, let's go, Mu Chen said, standing up. Without further delay, Lin Zhou's team quickly organized themselves. Both teams took to the sky, shooting off as 10 streaks of light, heading swiftly toward the northwest. A beam of spiritual light enveloped Mu Chen's body as he gazed into the distance, his expression pensive. The great sun indestructible body he obtained 6 months ago was extraordinarily powerful, but after further study, he found the training conditions to be extremely harsh. Not only did it require high talent, but 3 rare treasures from the heavens and earth were also necessary for successful cultivation. Mu Chen had searched for these 3 treasures in the Spirit Value Hall, but found no clues. Even consulting the Grand Song headmaster didn't help, as these treasures were too rare and difficult to find. These 3 treasures were the 9 Yang Divine Mushroom, a rare supreme Yang treasure said to radiate endless light. The Divine Mushroom contained divine fire, which even supreme experts dared not consume lightly. But once refined, it could temper spiritual energy, turning it into a supreme Yang force, making one's power extraordinarily dominant. The second treasure is the Void Solar Fruit, which grows in the void, absorbing the supreme Yang energy from the heavens and earth. A mature Void Solar Fruit, within a space, is almost like a blazing sun, burning for 1,000 years without dimming. As long as it is refined, one has the chance to cultivate the solar body. This solar body ranks 95th among the 99 supreme Dharmakayas, the lowest position, yet its power is undeniable. The third treasure is the Immortal Divine Leaf, which is even more mysterious. It is said to be a leaf from the Immortal Divine Tree. This tree, though a plant, possesses intelligence comparable to humans and can even be considered a living being. A mature Immortal Divine Tree, even a supreme, would not dare to provoke lightly, let alone attempting to strip its precious leaves from its trunk. Mu Chen had never heard of these 3 treasures before, and even the Grand Song Academy headmaster couldn't provide an answer. He merely told him that while these treasures are hard to find in the outside world, with enough luck, they might be uncovered in some ancient ruins on this continent. Sighing, Mu Chen helplessly smirked. The great sun indestructible body is not something an ordinary person could handle. Collecting these 3 treasures seems nearly impossible. However, these harsh conditions only made Mu Chen's desire for the great sun indestructible body grow stronger. If he could successfully cultivate it, it would greatly enhance his power in the future. Although Mu Chen is still far from reaching the supreme stage, it's better to prepare in advance. Otherwise, after finally breaking through to the supreme stage, he might find himself staring at the great sun indestructible body with no way to cultivate it. That would truly drive someone mad with frustration. I hope I can find some clues about these 3 treasures in this ruin. Mu Chen muttered to himself, shaking his head and speeding up, heading toward the northwest. The location of the ruins is quite remote. By the time Mu Chen and the others approached the area, half a day had already passed. The evening sun slanted down, casting a dark red glow across the sky and earth. As they neared the area, their speed gradually slowed, and their gazes turned toward the front. There, they saw a primitive forest with dark-colored trees, their towering trunks growing densely. However, the forest didn't emit vibrant life energy. Instead, it gave off a strange, cold aura that made people feel very uncomfortable. Mu Chen narrowed his eyes as he stared at the area. His brows furrowed, and he said, "It seems the location of this ruin has been exposed." Lin Zhou and the others followed his gaze and saw, indeed, several teams in the air in this area. Additionally, In the distance, the sound of wind rushing through the air could be heard, indicating that more teams were heading this way. They sighed in frustration. If they hadn't been delayed so long, they would have already been here to explore. Now, with more and more teams arriving, the competition for the treasures would become increasingly difficult. The teams in this area had noticed Mu Chun and his group's arrival and immediately became wary. Whoosh! At that moment, their expressions changed, and they turned with grave faces toward the northern direction. There, an overwhelming wave of spiritual energy was sweeping toward them. Looking carefully, it seemed as if the sky in that direction was filled with boundless spiritual energy, with several rays of light flashing like lightning. "It's the Sacred Spirit Academy's team," someone exclaimed, their voice full of caution. Hearing this, Mu Chen's expression darkened. His eyes turned cold and sharp as he stared in that direction.